As the Los Angeles Lakers acquired their 17th title against the Miami Heat, I grew interested in how the Lakers franchise started. As a person who loves basketball, I really wanted to know the beginnings and how the Los Angeles Lakers became one of the NBA's most recognizable franchises. So this is the history of the Los Angeles Lakers.
Basketball is as devastating as Mike.
Have you ever looked up to the rafters of the Staples Center and get mesmerized by all the championships that the Los Angeles Lakers have? A total of 17 titles, now with the 2020 win. But if you ever look closely, you see a light baby blue championship banner. That's because the Los Angeles Lakers didn't start off in Los Angeles, but in Minneapolis. In 1947, Ben Berger and Morris Chaplin purchased the disbanded Detroit Gems of the NBL for $15,000 from Gems owner Maury Winston. Minneapolis sports writer Sid Hartman played a key role by helping putting together the deal and later the team. Minneapolis has a well-known nickname, the Land of 10,000 Lakes, which inspired the team's name, the Minneapolis Lakers. Sid Hartman hired John Kula from the College of St. Thomas to be their first head coach and had a solid roster, which featured forward Jim Pollard, playmaker Herm Schaeffer, and center George Mikan. George Mikan became the most dominant player in the NBL. He scored 1,195 points, becoming the only player in NBL player to score more than 1,000 points in one NBL season, as well known as being named League MVP. That same season, the Minneapolis Lakers ended with a record of 43-17, and to top it all off, winning the 1947-1948 NBL championship. The following year, in 1948, the Lakers moved from the NBL, the National Basketball League, to the Basketball Associations of America, or the BAA for short. George Mikan averaged 28.3 points per game, setting a record in the BAA, and got their second straight title against the Washington Capitals 4-2. After the 1948-1949 season, the National Basketball League and the Basketball Associations of America merged to become known as the National Basketball Association, the NBA. During that time, the Minneapolis Lakers won 5 of the next 6 championships. In 1954, Lakers star George Mikan retired, and after that, the Minneapolis Lakers struggled but were still making the playoffs. The 1958-1959 season, the Lakers jumped to second in their division despite a 33-39 record, upsetting the Hawks to return to the NBA Finals, but were swept by none other than the Boston Celtics. During the 1960 NBA draft, the team selected Jerry West from West Virginia University, and team owner Bob Short decided to move the team to Los Angeles due to terrible attendance since the retirement of Lakers star George Mikan. With the rise of Elgin Baylor and Jerry West, the Lakers rose back to the top and went to the NBA Finals 4 times against the Boston Celtics, losing all 4 years against them. The Lakers came so close to beating the Celtics in those 4 years, going to overtimes and losing by just 2 points, starting a legendary rivalry. On July 9, 1968, the Lakers acquired Wilt Chamberlain from the Philadelphia 76ers for Darrell Imhoff, Archie Clark, and Jerry Chambers. Even with Wilt and having a 3-2 lead against the Celtics, they still fell short against them once again. In 1972, they finally won their 6th championship, the first one as the Los Angeles Lakers, against the New York Knicks, but the fun was about to begin in Los Angeles.
Sometime tomorrow, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar will officially become a member of the Los Angeles Lakers, confirming our exclusive.
The Lakers acquired Akeem Abdul-Jabbar after he wanted out of Milwaukee, and then in 1979, the Lakers drafted a 6'9" point guard from Michigan State, Magic Johnson. With his no-look passes, his teammates took a while to get used to, but once they did, the Lakers won 60 games in Johnson's rookie year, leading them to the NBA Finals and winning against the 76ers in 6 games. And Magic Johnson won the Finals MVP award. The following season, the Lakers lost Johnson due to an injury, but in 1981-1982 season, with the new head coach Pat Riley and co-head coach Jerry West, the Lakers won 17 out of its first 20 games. With an incredible fast break offense, the league nicknamed them Showtime. They won 5 out of the 9 finals appearances. But then, shocking news would be hitting the Lakers.
Because of the HIV virus that I have attained, I will have to retire from the Lakers today.
Magic Johnson tested positive for HIV and would retire immediately. After losing Magic Johnson, the Lakers kept making the playoffs but never made it really far. Being defeated in the first round, losing 43 games, the Lakers' first losing streak since 1976, Magic was the coach for the last 16 games of the 1993-1994 season, but he didn't stay as the head coach due to lack of commitment in certain players. In 1995-1996, he came out of retirement, but fell short to the Rockets in the first round, so Magic Johnson decided to retire for the final time after that season.
With the 13th pick in the 1996 NBA Draft, the Charlotte Hornets select Kobe Bryant from Lower Merion High School in Pennsylvania.
To bring you a live news conference about to take place in Atlanta, at which Shaquille O'Neal is expected to announce that he has signed a 7-year, $120 million contract to join the LA Lakers.
In the 1996 offseason, the Lakers acquired 17-year-old Kobe Bryant from the Charlotte Hornets via trade. That same year during the offseason, the Lakers signed Shaquille O'Neal. O'Neal led the team to a 56-26 record. Shaq averaged 20.2 points per game and 12.5 rebounds, finishing third in the league in block shots in 51 games. In the playoffs, the Lakers defeated Portland but fell short to the Utah Jazz in 5 games. The 1997-1998 season, the Lakers had their best start in franchise history with 11-0, but Shaquille O'Neal had to miss 20 games due to injury during the last 25 games. The Lakers won 22 of those games behind O'Neal and Kobe, finishing with a record of 61-21. This time they made it to the Western Conference Finals only to be swept by the Utah Jazz. Before the 1999-2000 season, Jerry West was ready to hire Rambis as the team's full head coach, but due to outcry by fans and members of the organization, West hired former Chicago Bulls coach Phil Jackson. Phil brought Tex Winter as his assistant and installed the triangle offense. More changes would come to the Los Angeles Lakers, saying goodbye to their old arena, the Forum, to the Staples Center. During the 1999-2000 season, O'Neal won his first league MVP. The Lakers won 31 out of the 36 first games, finishing with a record of 67-15. In the playoffs, they eliminated Sacramento and Phoenix, going against the Portland Trail Blazers in the Western Conference Finals, having a 3-1 lead in the series. But Portland forced a Game 7. But the Lakers came out victorious heading to the finals. The Lakers would go on to win the title against the Indiana Pacers, finishing in 4-2. The following season, the Lakers would go on to dominate the playoffs, sweeping all the Western Conference teams. In the playoffs, they met the Philadelphia 76ers. With an amazing performance from Allen Iverson, the Sixers took Game 1, ending the Lakers' undefeated streak.
Wants to go, wants the baseline, fade away, yes! He's way too good! He steps around Lou and drilled it!
But the Lakers would come out to win 4 straight games, giving them a back-to-back titles. Going for the three-peat, the Lakers once again made it through the first 2 rounds without breaking a sweat. But in the Western Conference Finals against the Sacramento Kings, it was the most hardest games that they ever had to play. It was a true battle. The Lakers were down 2-1, but Roberts' game winner would tie up the series. In Game 5, the Kings would win by a game winner by Mike Bibby. Now it was a win or lose for the Lakers in Game 6. In Game 6 against the Lakers and the Kings, it's still widely known as a controversial game in NBA history. The Lakers would go on to win by 5 points in Game 6 and winning in Game 7 in overtime. The Lakers with Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant were too much for Jason Kidd and his New York Nets. giving them the broom and achieving the three-peat and O'Neal's third straight Finals MVP award. As the Lakers wanted to go for a four-peat, but they could not make it past the Spurs in the second round, losing in 6 games. In the 03-04 season, the Lakers were determined to win another championship, signing two-time MVP Karl Malone and Gary Payton, making a big four. However, due to injuries, pushbacks the team, they would still make it to the NBA Finals, but would lose to Detroit in 5 games. And it seemed like the dynamic duo of Shaq and Kobe was coming to an end.
The major headline around the league tonight, the Los Angeles Lakers and Miami Heat have agreed to a trade that will send Shaquille O'Neal, one of the greatest big men of all time, to sunny South Florida.
During the 2004 offseason, the Lakers traded Shaquille O'Neal to the Miami Heat, acquiring Lamar Odom, Brian Grant, Karen Butler, and a first-round draft pick. Shaq and Kobe clashed in the past, and the media believed this is why Shaq was traded to Miami. Phil Jackson didn't return as head coach, being replaced by Robbie. The new head coach with Kobe led the team to 22-19 record, but Robbie had to step down due to health problems, and the assistant coach Frank became the head coach of the team for the remainder of the season. Kobe and Odom would suffer injuries, leaving the Lakers with a 34-48 record, missing the playoffs. In 3 years, the team would have some success as Phil Jackson came back to coach the Lakers. Kobe scored 81 points against Toronto, making the playoffs but would lose in the first round. The 2007-2008 season, the Lakers started with a record of 25-11 and would acquire Paul Gasol in a trade in early February, going 22-5, finishing the season. The Lakers would finish with the first seed with a record of 57-25, and Kobe was awarded his first league MVP award. In the playoffs, they defeated the Nuggets in 4 games, the Jazz in 6, and defending champ Spurs in 5, facing a longtime rival, the Boston Celtics. They would lose to the Celtics in 6 games, but in the 2008-2009 season, the Lakers would finish that season with a record of 65-17. In the playoffs, they would beat the Utah Jazz, the Rockets, and the Nuggets, once again reaching the NBA Finals, this time against the Orlando Magic, winning in just 5 games. The Lakers would add Ron Artest to their starting lineup, replacing Trevor Ariza in the 2009-2010 season. With another great record in the Western Conference, in the playoffs, they swept Oklahoma City Thunder, the Utah Jazz, and the Phoenix Suns to move to the NBA Finals to face off once again with the Boston Celtics, this time beating them in 7 games, giving Kobe Bryant another Finals MVP award as well. After the team's success, the team tried to make themselves stay on top by acquiring Steve Nash in a sign-in trade and as well trading for Dwight Howard. But with injuries for Kobe, the team barely just reached the playoffs as the 7th seed. On November 30th, 2015, Kobe Bryant would announce his retirement, and in his final game, Kobe scored 60 points against the Utah Jazz, giving fans one last enduring memory of his greatness.
Just thank you guys. Thank you guys for all the years of support. Thank you guys for all the motivation. Thank you for all the inspiration. This has been absolutely beautiful, you guys. I can't believe it's come to an end. You guys will always be in my heart. And thank you from the bottom of my heart. I love you guys. And I love you guys. What can I say? Mamba out.
Lakers have landed LeBron. The NBA's preeminent insider, Adrian Wojnarowski, is here. Tell us everything you know.
A 4-year, $154 million a max deal. That's what he can sign.
On July 9, 2018, the Lakers would sign LeBron James to a 4-year, $151 million contract. As the Lakers were finally having some success with LeBron James at the helm, he would go down with a groin injury, missing several weeks of playing time. With their young talent, Ball and Ingram will also end their season early due to injuries. Magic Johnson would step down as president of basketball operations, and 2 days later, the Lakers parted ways with head coach Walton, after they failed to reach the playoffs for the 6th straight year. On May 13th, Frank Vogel was named the Lakers head coach.
Biggest one of all. The Pelicans have agreed to finally trade Anthony Davis to the Lakers. Now, here's the compensation package. Everybody's wondering, what would they give up? Lonzo Ball?
And then on July 6th, the Lakers acquired Anthony Davis from the New Orleans Pelicans for Ball, Ingram, Hart, and 3 first-round draft picks. including the number 4 overall in the 2019 draft. With this roster, the Lakers were one of the favorites to win the NBA title in the Orlando bubble. The Lakers will see the NBA Finals once again, this time facing the Miami Heat. Although the Lakers had a clear victory against the Heat after they lost 2 of their best players due to injury, Miami would still give the Lakers a fight. But the Lakers would win in 6 games, giving Anthony Davis his first championship and LeBron James his 4th championship ring, alongside his 4th Finals MVP. The win gave the Los Angeles Lakers their 17th championship, tying the Boston Celtics for the most all time.